Okay, so we are doing a little bit of introduction about StoryJoy, what it is, who we are, what we do, and where do we want to start?
That's a good question. Do you start at the very beginning?
Well, that would be 1982 for me. Well, do you want to divulge the year? No? Okay.
A few years before you. Just a few.
Just a few. Yeah, so we started working together in 2009 at the Salvation Army. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We both took on pretty entry-level positions at this new community center that Salvation Army was opening, and spent quite a few years working through the ranks there.
Yeah.
Learning a lot about a lot of different things. I learned video production at the Salvation Army. I won't presume to tell you what you learned. You can talk about that, but
a lot of things, but the most important was the storytelling.
Yeah. That people are drawn to narrative, to story, to emotion, to human impact. A lot of work there. So tell me a little bit about, and you can start wherever you want. You can start at that point or earlier, about where you've come kind of professionally and where you are now.
Well, I think you're making my mind go back to the Salvation Army and spending time there. Like you said, we both started in relatively entry-level positions and really kind of grew up with the organization. It was one of a few different startup opportunities that I know both of us have had, because it really was a startup experience where we got to experiment a lot, which was pretty awesome. I think in that experimentation was also where we were able to grow, because we were given a lot of creative freedom. And that's actually how I think you and I started doing projects together, was to have a lot of freedom and creativity in regards to how we represented the organization, and both internally and externally through video and storytelling. So that was pretty amazing. But after working for the local Salvation Army here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, I got the opportunity to work for the territorial headquarters and help open and grow those community centers across the United States. So that was a pretty phenomenal opportunity, and really gave me a boost in a career, both in managing businesses and helping to consult and grow businesses. But I think also to start, it was kind of my dabble. I didn't plan on being in marketing and storytelling, but it's kind of what was the catalyst for that, starting to work with the marketers there.
Yeah, I was going to say, you weren't in the marketing department. You were doing kind of back end technology, logistics, implementation, that kind of thing. So what was talk about the shift there that moved you more into the marketing space, to thinking more about communication? And
well, I think it's as any entrepreneur will know, as you go through in the startup phases, you're working on your product, you're working on your systems and your operations, and eventually, ultimately, we got to our marketing. The centers needed to grow, and we needed to figure out a way to scale a better message, to scale a story with very incredibly limited resources. So it was. It was quite an experience. That first experience was managing a team more than doing the work myself. But our time spent in technology and building websites and systems, we needed to actually know what message to put out through those technology systems. So that's kind of where I got my start, and working with some amazing marketing professionals there. We had a few great people up at the territorial headquarters. They know who they are. And so got a very quick lessons in how to take technology and combine it with story, with messaging, with video, and make it help us grow and scale and produce results on behalf of the centers and get more people into the centers.
Yeah, and we started working together more often when you were working for the territory, and I had come up at the local community center originally as an audio engineer. There was a big performing arts space there, and I was working in that realm. We had a different video guy who was very talented. He's gone on to great things, but he left for a new opportunity, and the leadership was just like, well, you're the video guy now, figure it out. And so that was I'm super grateful for the opportunity to learn and grow in that context. But several years into that, I was producing a lot of marketing content, internal training content, things like that for the local community center. And your team at the territory asked me to come make some resources for you guys. We did some just some fun staff building stuff, some marketing content. We did some HR onboarding video.
Yep.
Just
Those were fun.
Yeah, they were.
They were a lot of fun.
I helped out with a training series on the back end of the back end of the community center's website platforms, because a lot of the community centers didn't have full-time marketing people, and they had just kind of jack of all trades administrators that needed to get in and edit their websites, and they didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. One of the great things about having you in that role was that we were able to scale a message and create a consistent message across the organization, not just in one facility, but in all of the facilities, also both internally as well as externally. That was a real big deal, was to be able to get, I mean, you've got 200 employees working at one facility, and to have them all telling the same story and engaging guests in the mission of the Salvation Army, that was a real big need. And through the video, we were able to fill that need and start really educating our staff, honestly, on how to talk about the mission of the organization, which was pretty awesome. And they were just fun projects, so.
Yeah, it's always fun to work with good people, organizations that trust you to come up with a vision and know that it's going to work out in the end. I know a lot of the ideas we came up with were pretty crazy and could have gone badly, but didn't, and to have the trust of the leadership to be like, I don't do whatever you want. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I think was incredibly satisfying, was being able to influence an organization simply through the way you talk about an organization. And while nobody at that organization probably realized how much influence people like you and me had on the direction and the vision of the organization, but all that creative license that they gave us, like we did, I think we made a difference, and we really put a little bit of our own personal stamp on it, which I think was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So you moved on to the territorial level for the Salvation Army. And so that's the Western 13 states, I think.
Yes.
Of the United States. So pretty big geographic region, lots of community centers that you were working with. I eventually left the local community center for two things. I was and still am involved in planning a local church here in Coeur d'Alene. And then I also started working for another production company for a short amount of time, and then stepped out and started my own video production company called Strangeland. I've been doing that for a number of years now. Where did you go from there?
From the Salvation Army, I went into the tech world. During my time with the Army, like you had mentioned, I had a lot of opportunity to get involved in setting up, managing, and growing our systems and our operations through technology and our messaging through technology. So I went to work for a company that builds software to manage facilities like the Salvation Army. That business ultimately was acquired, which was an incredible experience of its own, going through a business acquisition and a transition of leadership. And as we transitioned to the new owners, that business actually shifted its model from building custom software to actually being what they call like a technology-based venture studio. So we were creating new software-based products and launching them in the marketplace. And during my time there, we were able to launch two pretty cool products, which was a lot of fun.
Cool. I had a very different experience in my first role after leaving the Salvation Army, working for a production studio that primarily focused on wedding videos. And I was only there for less than a year before they folded.
I was going to say, was it just the weddings? You couldn't handle the weddings?
Yeah, well, I couldn't handle the weddings. Man, so many weddings. But But no, I mean, I got to witness like just a lot of really bad management decisions. I got to like see it unfold in a really interesting way. And I mean, obviously that's hard, and there are a lot of people affected negatively by that. But like, I do look back on that time um, gratefully for a lot of reasons because of some skills of my own I was able to sharpen, but just also going like, oh, that's not how you care for people well in an organization. That's not how you honor your customers in an
Have you
organization.
not had those experiences
Not
before?
really. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
like it's funny. I was having dinner with my niece and nephew the other night, and they were talking about just awful work
Oh
environments that they
yeah.
were part of. And I kind of said, and I think they were kind of offended because I kind of said, I'm a little jealous. I feel like I didn't get to experience just a terrible boss. But maybe I should be grateful for that.
Yeah, you should be grateful because yeah, I probably had very few healthy working environments
Yeah.
before I landed at the Salvation Army and further in my career. Yeah.
So then I've been running my production company since 2019. Kind of slowly growing it as I've also helped as a leader in our church. And you were a part of a venture studio for a number of years, and then you transitioned out of that to do what?
Well, really, I just took a sabbatical actually. If we're going to be real about it. So as much as I have a wonderful relationship with that venture studio and have a lot of respect for them, what I found during that time and kind of what transitioned, this is really actually a big part of what led to StoryJoy. What I found during that time is that just by the nature of the circumstances, the role that was available for me after they were acquired was primarily in the sales area. Um, and the type of work that I was doing, I didn't realize it at the time, but the type of work that I was doing was draining me of energy. And it was let's see, that was probably like 2023 ish, I guess, 22, 23 in that realm. So it was post COVID. My dad had passed away right at the beginning of COVID. Then COVID happened, life got crazy. I mean, I could tell stories. We all have stories. Didn't realize how on the edge of burnout I was. Um, and then going into a tech-based venture studio, you're moving fast. You're moving forward. Every day is new change. Every day is an iteration, which normally I could handle, but I was out of gas, I guess you could say, at that point. And so being already out of gas combined with doing work that are activities, like I said, that drained me, that I wasn't made for, I totally burnt out. Um, the organization though, and the owner Brandon was amazing. They gave me the ability to go and have a sabbatical. I took like 6, 8 weeks and just stepped away entirely to rest and to figure out what was next. Um, and a grateful in every moment for that. And so, yeah, during that time actually was when I reconnected with you. You called me up and said, "Hey Jess, do you still do that story branding stuff? Do you still tell business stories? And I'd love to meet with you, grab some coffee. Could you help me with the story for my production company?" And it was like the first thing that in a lot of meh in my life, it was the first thing that was like, that sounds fun. I could totally do that. So I remember we met for coffee. And I don't know, we were probably there for like 2 hours, like just working through your messaging and trying to identify who your target customer was and your problem. And I walked away just like so filled up. Like it gave me so much energy that it was like a little light bulb went off inside of me that said, this is what I should be doing.
Mm.
I shouldn't be in the tech space. I should be helping people tell their stories. And there's just, I don't know, there's something really beautiful about when you get to talk to somebody and see all of the heart and the effort and the energy that they put into their business. And you start to get to know the core of who that true identity of that person is and how that comes out through their work and their business and their creativity. And to be, it's so easy to articulate it and to celebrate it. It's not easy if you're the one running the business, but from the outside looking in, it's super easy. And so, yeah, that moment gave me just, I think just that spark of what I needed and the idea of maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to figure out how to do this on my own, like go into business for myself. And I would definitely say I don't suggest that to anyone. Coming from burnout to going to starting a business is not typically a recipe for success. But yeah, there was definitely a spark there, and again, super respecting the venture studio I was with. I went back and I just said, I'd love to try this idea that I have to do storytelling. And they agreed to still employ me while I worked on this project on the side, which, I probably wouldn't have gotten off the ground if they weren't willing to do that for me. So it's one of the things I also remember is that, like, all along the way from the days, leading into the Salvation Army to going to work for the venture studio, that there was people that had my back and gave me opportunities. But yeah, so it was a put one foot in front of the other. We have had a term ever since then of what's the next right thing, like that I'm not going to strive. I'm not going to work too hard to force myself to make this successful too quick, like to just accept each day for what it is, in starting that business so that I don't burn myself out again. But yeah, so yeah, we say what's the next right thing a lot.
Yeah, I think, and obviously, like, I reached out to you at that point to help with my messaging because I've just recognized ever since we started doing that kind of story branding stuff together that you've just got a real, just strong ability to draw that out of people. And there is kind of a general sense in where, like, it does seem easier to do it for others than to do it for yourself.
100%.
But even beyond that, just kind of your intuition about customers and product market fit and language, but then just you're also kind of a systems person, I think when you think about storytelling, that kind of lands in maybe a creative bucket. And then you think about creatives and creatives are notoriously like scatterbrained and everywhere. And while that is fine, and we love that about many creatives, you are definitely a very systems focused individual. And so you can create like really strong buckets to hold those ideas. And I think that's a really powerful gift that you bring to the table when you do that kind of storytelling work is you don't, even just the way you deliver to clients with just beautifully organized, aesthetically beautiful resources that say, like, okay, now that we've done all this work, here's how you can digest it. Here's how you can implement it. And I think that's a real gift that you have, combining both kind of the ideation and the creativity with some real tangible systems goals and deliverables. And so I think that's I think your kind of spark of like, oh, I should be doing this, reflects a lot of that. Well, that's in you.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I think it's only because I have people around me too that allow it to happen, and that there's so many pieces of a team or of when you're in any project or with moving forward any initiative within an organization. It's about those of us around us, and I think over the years, both at the Salvation Army and now, having team members that kind of pick up my slack as well as cheerlead and confirm and support me has been huge.
You hinted at this a minute ago, but you were burnout and you decided to start a business.
Yes.
So tell me about the business.
Well, the first iteration of the business was called the Joybird Collective. And the inspiration and the idea of round one was that we would be a team of people, which we are, but we would be a team of people that would go into local small businesses, regional small businesses, and overall, like, help them with their overall business, do some more general business consulting. I think that one of the things through storytelling that we've found is that often there's other challenges. It's not just the message that is the challenge of the business. Some businesses have challenges with pricing strategies, or maybe the product fit isn't right, or they haven't identified a viable target audience. Sometimes there's cash flow issues. It's just a myriad of things. And so that first Joybird Collective was, let's be a team of people that can go in and can help build businesses back up. And also we had, I think, a vision, and which we still have, but which was to help businesses become more redemptive, and in the way that they operate, both internally and externally. And for us to be able to both teach and model what it looks like to run not just an ethical business, but a redemptive business, a life-giving business. So yeah, that was iteration one.
Yeah, and that's kind of that makes sense to me, thinking about your background in various roles and how you've developed, and also you have a family business. You and your husband own a business, and so you've got all of these touch points where you are in the trenches working through all of those business problems for yourself and for others. You were doing that work at the Salvation Army, the nonprofit that we were at, and then at the Venture Studio. You were asking questions of other businesses that were possible investment opportunities. And I think the funny thing about that is that there's this kind of perennial piece of business advice that we give people, which is that if you're doing everything, you're not doing anything, right? Like you don't really have an audience. You don't really have a customer. If like, yeah, whatever you need, we'll take care of it, you know?
But everybody is not your audience.
Right. But the funny thing is it's really, again, when you're telling somebody else that, you can see it clearly. Like you clean houses and you tutor math, and that's my bit. Like, well, you can't, both of those things, those are two different businesses, but when it comes to yourself, you're like, well, I have all these skills, and I can, if a customer comes to me and they've got cash flow issues, I need to be able to help them with that. But the reality is like, you can't message that. You can't tell people what you're doing if you're doing everything. And so I feel like that reality had to sink in.
Yes.
But then also what kind of came to the surface was just, again, more of the, would you say, like, passion around storytelling versus pricing structure?
I don't know that I thought it was the immediate passion, but what it was the immediate felt need of most of our clients. It, like you said, it was difficult to, when you do everything and anything for anyone, like we can help create a healthier business for any kind of business, is really difficult to sell that. It's hard to find the pain point around that. Now, if I can find a specific pain point and just speak to that pain point, then it works. And so what I was finding, and you were finding, is that as we were started to talk to potential clients, the biggest felt need was, I need better marketing. I'm spending money on marketing and it's not producing the kind of results that we expected, and we don't know why. And 9 times out of 10, it's like, okay, well, we'll look at it for you. We'll do a little bit of an audit. When you do an audit, it would typically be, they're talking to the wrong person, and their message is very unclear and very confusing. And I mean, very quickly you can tell just by someone's website or their, sales materials, whether or not they're going to confuse their customers, whether or not they're telling a clear story. And like I said, 95% of the time that was the issue. So it, at the end of the day, if I've learned anything in my years of starting businesses, it's that you don't always have product market fit the first idea, the first iteration of your business. And so we just started to iterate and say, if that's what people are challenged by, if that's the felt need, let's solve that problem for them first. And I think that the expectation was we would solve the storytelling problem for them, and then they would trust us and invite us into larger consulting roles. Mm-hmm. But that's where I think we started to fall back in love with storytelling and realize we need to just be what we are and niche in on telling really great stories for organizations, especially organizations that have a purpose behind them that are promoting human flourishing. There's just something really special about bringing out that human beauty of how we want to help each other and connect with each other, to bring that out in a business's messaging.
Yeah. So that was a process of what, 6 months of kind of working with our first few clients and recognizing that. And then you made the decision. You said, like, we actually need to niche down. We need to do some rebranding, kind of focus in on a certain kind of work, so that we can get clarity for ourselves. I mean, putting these principles into practice for the business. And so the Joybird Collective shifted to what?
To StoryJoy. StoryJoy was we don't always get it right, but I love business naming, and branding. And so while we were still Joybird, we played around with different name ideas and what do we call this offering that is storytelling based. And I guess it's strange because it's like sometimes when you're coming up with names, I think they're incredibly important, even just to the ideation process before you even start a business, to give it a personality, to give it a name, to attach to. And so even though I really loved Joybird, there was something about it though that I don't know. I think deep down I knew it wasn't the long term idea. So but the idea of joy and that word and like creating and pulling joy out of what's oftentimes not joyful situations in life or in business, um, is stuck and resonated. So yeah, I don't remember where it popped up, but it was just like story joy. That makes sense. So we tested it actually before we launched it as the full bit rebrand of the business name. We tested it in the marketplace, and we had a client that we were working with that was a large team and had probably about 30 different people working, not directly with us, but within the periphery of our project of telling their story well. It was at a school, and what I noticed was that um, people wouldn't remember our names personally, but they would remember the name of the business. And they would be like, oh, it's those folks from StoryJoy.
Hmm.
And they started using the name a lot. And that's when I knew it was sticky and that it had some legs and would be a viable solution.
You rebranded StoryJoy. You're focusing on that kind of messaging piece of how a business communicates to its audience, how a business tells its own story, right? So flesh that out a little bit more. If I was a prospective client meeting you at like a networking event, what do you do?
Well, what we do at StoryJoy is we help people get a better return on their investment for their marketing dollars. One of the things that we often talk about is how common it is for a business. They either typically have a marketing team, or maybe they've hired an agency or a freelancer who's an amazing technologist and understands the algorithms of Meta and Google. But those persons who are working on their behalf are not storytellers. And so they're getting a lot of eyeballs on their stuff, but those eyeballs on their marketing is not translating into conversions into sales. And primarily it's because the story that we're telling is not engaging the clients to pay attention. And so we fix that problem. And we fix it in a way we're not trying to put freelancers out of business. We're not trying to have anyone get in trouble in a marketing department, because they're still learning how to storytell. We're just coming along and helping the team that already exists be more successful on behalf of the business.
Yeah, I think that's important that your whole kind of personal ethos is partnership and helping people succeed.
Yeah.
And you have designed the services of StoryJoy in a way that ideally StoryJoy's clients would graduate from needing you, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to
At
put it.
the end of the day, if they can learn how to do this themselves, it's a win, right?
Absolutely.
Like where, and I think I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about redemptive business, right? And I think that is kind of leaning into the redemptive category of saying, like, while it would be totally fine to say, here's a service that we want to hook you on so that you always need us and we're always going to work hard for you and we're always going to do good work for you forever and ever. It's a little bit different to say, actually, we would like to teach you some things so that you can do it for yourself and succeed without us.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's incredibly important because our expectation and our belief is that the business is going to grow so much that they are going to need to have their own internal resources that are providing messaging and storytelling for their business. I mean, at a baseline, I mean, everyone in your business that talks to anyone externally needs to tell a compelling, consistent message. So whether it's salespeople or customer service, marketers, it's broader than just the advertising and the marketing, the value of being able to tell a consistent story. So we want to make sure that they're set. Every business that we work with is set up for success to be able to utilize their storytelling and their storybook in a way that's going to bring growth to the business. I also feel strongly that one of the challenges that small businesses face is they're often in a situation where they can only afford to hire a junior marketing manager, somebody who's earlier in their career. And this person has like all of the right skill, like they have all of the right like raw materials to become a great marketing manager, but they're so early in their career that those skills just haven't been developed and refined yet. And so if we can come into the business and through the process of running these projects, we can help educate those junior designers and junior marketers to grow in their craft and in their skill set. Not only does it help them in their life and their career, but it helps that business grow them as an employee. That's like there's nothing better than that. So yeah, it's part of why we do it.
Talk a little bit about what businesses are doing wrong, right?
What businesses are doing wrong?
Yeah, like
there's. I mean, can I drop a long list?
No.
Can I get a Sharpie?
Let me specify. So when you mentioned, you can pretty quickly go on a business's website,
yeah,
and be like, okay, this is very clearly messaged incorrectly. And sometimes, unfortunately, and this kills me when I hear this, is like, oh, we just spent $1 gazillion on that website. What do you mean? And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But you, and I find this too when I look at companies, like you read the website and you go, like, I don't know what you do. Like, I don't have any. There's some pictures and there's some graphics and some arrows and there's like a bunch of like 8-syllable, businessy words, but like, what exactly do you even do? Why do people do that?
I don't know why they do it. I think it's just a lack of awareness, honestly, of a lack of awareness of how the human mind works and how humans engage with something that they see online. Is as simple as that. But I think one of the biggest problems probably most companies make is that they're not talking enough about the problem that they solve for their potential customer. They're not actually thinking about their customer, they're thinking about themselves. And that's probably the root of it, is that when we are writing material for our websites, we're thinking, I have to describe everything about our business. And I have to talk about us and the benefits and all the unique value props. And before you know it, you've written 3 or 4 pages of self-centered, it's all about us, when really what a customer is looking for is to know that you get them, that you understand their problem, and that you can solve their problem. And you've got about, maybe 20 seconds, 10 or 20 seconds to prove that you get them and that you can solve their problem. And so that's the thing that we look for the most, is that first, have we identified the problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that's one of those things that like when you step back from it, you go like, that makes total sense. But it's, as I've experienced it, because I've come to you several times to be like, hey, read this copy, and you'll be like, that doesn't say anything about what you do. That doesn't speak to your problem. That's all about, and I hear that and I go, yeah, you're right. Like, obviously, why didn't I see that? Because there's such a deep psychological um, need, and I don't know if it's a need or just like an inclination to be self-focused. Um,
I think we need to prove. We think we need to prove ourselves, and so we talk about ourselves a lot because if we don't like prove I have expertise or I'm trustworthy, like those things are important, but I think we don't give our other humans enough credit for being willing to trust us. We don't need to prove ourselves that much. Just a few little bits and pieces about
yeah.
your expertise and how you empathize with them works.
So okay. So let's talk a little bit about the the StoryJoy process, because I think that's really
Yeah.
important. There are actually quite a few voices, and I run across them online all the time that will say similar things that you just did about who is your customer and solving their problem, and you need to talk about those things over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so I think more and more, even if it's kind of intuitively hard to do at a high level, business leaders are kind of recognizing that this is probably true. Um, how do you figure out what that messaging is?
Well, we have a actually pretty unique process. For us, it's not, we aren't figuring it out. We're really just uncovering it from the people who already work inside the organization. So we bring together the team. Typically, it's like the leadership team. It's usually, anywhere from like 4 to 8 people in the organization. We'll bring them together for 2 days of discovery sessions where we sit down and we sit down and we stand up and it's very interactive, but where we come together to draw out of them the heart for their own heart for their business, but also the heart for their customer. And then we kind of work through a framework that allows us to actually develop a message and a story that is the story of the customer more than it is the story of that organization. And because the people on their teams are so close to the customers and are so close to the operations of the business, it's so much easier to do with them in the room, for us to really get it right. So there's sort of some phases we go through in the discovery sessions. We spend some time looking at business identity and really, we have a little bit of a philosophy that the business identity comes from the individual identities of the people that are managing and running the business. And so we look at that very personal level of what does each person feel called to? Like, what is it that they are in love with about their business and about their customers? And what is their calling in terms of trying to make the world a better place or trying to influence change for toward human flourishing. We really start to get at that at an individual level, and then when we bring those individual ideas and callings together, we sort of find this really interesting mix of a vision that coalesces as a group, by bringing together their individual visions into one singular centered place. So that's sort of the process of what we call business identity, establishing what is the identity of the business and where are they called to. And then we enter into and spend a lot of time actually typically talking about ideal target customer. And ideal being a key word. Everybody knows, if you've taken any kind of marketing 101 class, you need to know who your target audience is. But in this case, we feel that for real impact, the first focus needs to be who is the customer that you're in love with? Who is the customer that you feel deeply called to? And then, so once we identify it, then we have to tease out what are all the qualities of this customer and really deeply understand the customer's heart and the customer's challenges and their problems and what those problems make them feel like. So we spend quite a bit of time in that space of really understanding the customer. What I find that happens a lot is actually these businesses fall back in love with their customers again when we start to work through this kind of discovery. And then from there we work on positioning the business as the guide. So we have I'll give Donald Miller total credit. Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand, has a philosophy, and read the book if you haven't, but has a philosophy of that your customer is your hero. And as a business owner, you are the guide, or as the business, you're the guide. And so we work on reframing what that business can do for the customer through the lens of a guide. So the guide knows what you're going through, what challenges you're experiencing. They've experienced the same problems. So we talk about and articulate how we resonate and we empathize with our customers. We spend time working through the authority of the guide. So how does the guide have expertise? What gives them the experience to be able to speak to and solve the problems of the customer? And then we do get into things like unique value proposition and differentiation. We do need to differentiate one business from the next. And so spending time really pulling out and getting creative about what makes you different than, the competitor down the street. That's actually one of a real fun part of the process for me, because I think a lot of businesses don't even actually recognize the things that makes them different and unique and interesting to their customers. We typically will talk about product features and benefits and serve like different service packages and things, but we don't get at the heart of like our customers want to know about the heart of what you're doing, and why you're doing what you're doing. So we kind of talk about the why a little bit, and then we wrap it all up. The last phase of the discovery process is idealize, like really getting idealizing and articulating what success looks like, what the end result looks like once a customer has worked with you, and allowed you to solve their problems. So what does the life of that customer look like? I mean, even to the nitty gritty of like, how do they feel different when they're driving their kids to school, or what is their relationship with their spouse like? We don't just say, oh, you've solved their problem, that's the only benefit, like the outcome. It's like, no, you've solved their problem and they're experiencing all these amazing life changes because you solved their problem. So we articulate that really well. So that's the discovery process.
That's great. There's a lot in there that I want to point out. I think one thing that is really important about that is that we've talked about it a few times, but the idea of working with businesses that promote human flourishing, redemptive businesses, there's a lot of ways you could talk about it, but the business that I imagine just gets railroaded by this process is the business that is just out to make a profit, right? Like if all I want to do is make money and I don't care, if I'm willing to just cut corners and fudge the truth, as long as we get the sales, like questions about the flourishing of my customer don't matter. But and I think that's actually pretty rare, right? The reality is even though everyone has a business to make money, that's the point. It's that we're putting food on the table for our families, and those kind of things are realities. Most people start a business, and we work with nonprofits too. Most organizations start because people really care about people, right? Like, even if I'm making a widget, I want this widget in the hands of a lot of people because it will make their life better.
Yeah.
And like, I love what you said about how we forget that because we get buried in P&Ls and processes and all that stuff, because money is such a big overarching goal when it comes to business, and there's nothing wrong with that. The idea that the questions you're asking are refocusing on why did you actually start this business in the first place?
Yeah.
I think is really powerful.
I think a lot of times it's a rediscovery process.
Yeah. And I think I've seen it too. Like you said, it re-energizes people to love their customers again. Um, and then the next thing that I want to point out is how this process, how front loading the work in this way seems can seem unnecessary.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. We've experienced this before where we get into discovery and you can just kind of feel at the beginning of the discovery session that these really busy executive leaders don't have time for this.
Oh, 100%.
We're in a big room, there's snacks, there's jokes, there's funny slides, there's Post-its on the wall, and it's just like, I got 8 meetings before lunch and I can't, and you're very adamant that if you cannot be here, we are not doing this.
Yeah.
And you force people into this space for 2 full business days.
In person.
Yeah, virtual. We're not doing it virtually. Yeah. And I think that's challenging sometimes for people. Like, do we really need to do this?
It's definitely it's going against the grain of what the marketplace wants right now. And I've had people say, can't you just run this through AI? And I'm like, well, AI can't get into your brain and pull out and uncover all the beauty that's inside of you. So no, we can't do this part of the process through AI. And yes, we get pushback. And in the early days, it was challenging for me, because you want to meet the needs of your clients. And when my clients would say, well, really, can we just have a 2-hour meeting and then you guys do the rest and you guys figure out our message? And it was tough to say no, but we have to say no because absolutely you and I could sit down and we could think of
Could make something up.
we could make up an interesting, compelling, somewhat compelling story for a client. But what we found is that the mix of what comes out of the minds and the hearts of the people on your team is way more interesting and way more compelling than what you or I could ever figure out on our own.
And it's real, right?
And it's very real. It's very authentic.
Like if we were to create the story for a client and deliver it to them, they might buy into it for a few months. But if it's not their story, if it's not what's their real passion is generating, then it's going to get put in a desk drawer and forgotten about.
Yeah, and it really just ends up it's a message just for a quick campaign.
Yeah.
And it's there and it's gone. And what we do is really, like I said, uncover what is actually authentically being created and the problems that are being solved by this business. We bring that up such that it can stay around for the life of the business. And that's why, even though I know in the marketing world, it's very rare these days to call anything evergreen, but we call it's really an evergreen story that we're telling because it's the core of your story. And it's not, while pieces and parts and the trajectory of the story might change, the core of why you started the business, the core of what problems you feel called to solve for the people that you feel called to solve them for, that does not change. And so these stories really are evergreen.
Yeah.
And it just takes the time. And I think in this day and age where we go through every process as quickly as we can. We do not take the time to slow down. It is absolutely against the rules to slow down and think about what you want to say or write for a certain period of time. It's something that always frustrated me in the business circles that I worked in, was how quickly they wanted me to produce something. It's all about production.
Yeah.
And it's sad that we're losing that, and we're going to lose it more with the influx of AI. I think AI has its place, but it shouldn't take away our human capacity for introspection and contemplation, and thought. It's a really special thing, and it's where innovation comes from. There's a saying, I think I got it from Jamie Winship, that says there is no innovation without contemplation. And so one of the things that we're trying to do in this 2 days is actually, even for the first time for some businesses, introduce the idea of slowing down and becoming introspective and contemplative in regards to their business. Because it's not something most businesses have practiced and they don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the tension comes from the fact often that businesses are interested in the deliverables, right? Like
Yes.
there's a lot of things that we either create or partner with other professionals to create, like websites, sales funnels, video pieces, brand stories, testimonies, whatever. There's
Sales campaigns.
all these kind of things. And so a business is like, I want the thing, but the thing is just an empty shell if we don't do the discovery. And to speak a little bit about the AI stuff, like all AI is going to do is regurgitate something that's already been done. Right. And sometimes it's, I mean, sometimes it's fine, right? Like we use AI in certain areas for a lot of things, but if, like what you're saying, if the like soul of your business, which is a human creation, is what needs to be fronted, then ChatGPT doesn't have that information. Like it just can't do it.
No.
And as much as it is frustrating sometimes, like the discovery sessions are so vital. And the proof of that, I think, is at the end of the discovery session when everybody in the room's like, this was amazing. I'm so glad we did this, you know?
Yeah, they walk in not knowing what to expect and didn't realize that it's going to be so interactive and have so much fun. And honestly, that it becomes a team building event. So I don't know what else to call it other than event, but yeah, a team building experience and an event. Because they really had time to actually collaborate and connect on a really deep level.
Yeah. The StoryJoy process starts with this kind of intense discovery process where you try to dig up who this company really is, who their customer is, what they're doing, like getting that all out in the open. And I've seen it, you create just dozens of pages of notes that get formatted and clarified that end up getting delivered in a really beautiful storybook that goes to the client. That step typically turns into, like I mentioned before, some other deliverables. Maybe it's website copy. Maybe it's some video work, a sales funnel, something like that. What sort of organizations are ideal clients for StoryJoy?
I think ideally we are looking for an organization that what I like to call a purpose-driven business. Or, I mean, it could also fall into nonprofit and faith circles, but purpose-driven in the sense of that there's something more than just profit that this business is after, and they've had a difficult time articulating that. Is an ideal for us. And a lot of times that purpose hasn't come out of the dark and shed light on, and we can shed light on it for a business. At a very tactical level, our ideal target audience is someone that is a very specific problem that they've been spending money on marketing, and that money has not been producing the return that they need. But I like to think a lot about like who I love to work with, who we love to work with, and that's where the purpose-driven entrepreneur or business owner comes into play pretty heavily.
I think it's because you want StoryJoy to have that kind of purpose. You want to help businesses, nonprofits, organizations that are helping people.
Yes.
And if they're spending their money on marketing and it's not converting, and there's something like Donald Miller calls it the philosophical problem, right? Like there's something wrong about that. Like these people are doing good work in the world and not enough people know about it.
100%.
And so I feel like that really motivates you to go like, I want to help make that happen for them.
I'm glad you can articulate my thoughts so well.
That's what I'm here for.
That's why we all need somebody else to help us with our messaging.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we're not real great at our own, but we're really good at it.
Let me tell you what you want to say. What does I mean, like the real like easy way to say success for StoryJoy is that our clients would see results, right?
Yes.
That would sales or donations or followers or whatever the problem
Whatever. Yeah.
they're sensing that having their messaging reflect their customers' real needs and who they are as a company that's designed to meet those needs is going to actually move the needle for them, whatever that particular metric is.
Absolutely.
But think a little bit more broadly about success. What does success look like for StoryJoy?
Well, I'm going to start by saying what I think success looks like for me personally, and then maybe I can translate that into corporately for StoryJoy. But for me personally, success looks like if we can bring the humans that are running a business together and help them get in touch with like their true selves, their true identities, and a deep, I don't know, it's like a deep like spirit type calling um, to serve other humans. If we can bring that out into the light, what those true identities are, and identify them and celebrate them and celebrate like the beauty and the goodness in those people that often comes out through their business and through their work. Um, People that are transformed into loving what they do and being able to do more of it. For me personally, that's success. And so I think that probably translates for StoryJoy as well from a corporate standpoint. Is that are the people growing and transforming and is this process one small step to being able to grow and transform a business into being one that is a good community member, is a good partner with their employees, with their with the vendors, with their community at large. If we can even play a little role in helping them expand their impact on their community, I think that's a huge success. Um, I think we all want to think that the marketplace and believe that the marketplace can be a friendlier place, can be a place where people are brought together instead of divided apart, where we're bringing products and services to the table that will promote human flourishing and the rejuvenation of our planet and things like that, as opposed to creating problems and wreaking havoc and creating war and things like that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about how this process has been for you. What has it been? Gosh, has it been a year? Has it been a year and a half? How long have you been out on your own entrepreneuring?
I guess I haven't been counting, but I want to say it's been about a year and a half.
Okay. What's been challenging about starting this business?
There's lots of challenges. I've going into starting a business, there was a side of me that said I shouldn't go start a business because I've helped start probably 8 or 9 businesses during my career, and I know how hard it can be. I think for me personally, though, one of the first challenges is um, trying to work out and make sure initially in the early days it was feeling like I was building and having a team. I made a decision pretty early on that this wasn't going to be a solopreneur venture. That I've had experiences in my past working with really healthy teams, really vibrant teams, and I wanted that again. I want it every day. And so I think one of the things that has been difficult has just been for me to personally remind myself that there are creative ways to build a team that don't require me hiring people initially. While I didn't have the capacity to hire at first, and that's kind of what was born of the collective of bringing people to the table that have a heart for what we're doing, and feel that they can play a role and would enjoy playing a role. So having you involved in the business has been amazing and very consistent. We have a handful of other people that have been growing, working with our business. We have some people that provide storytelling, we call them storytelling consultants that help authentically tell the story of our clients through different that have different audiences that maybe you and I don't have experience with those audiences. We have some people that work on more contemplation and what we call contemplative listening on behalf of our organization. They pray and listen and make sure that we're kind of stepping outside of ourselves and not just looking at like selfish centered means of how we think we can solve problems for our clients. We also have obviously some amazing creative individuals that work with us in the world of web and tech and design. And so that it's been great to grow it. But there's days where I wish I had all the capital and startup capital in the world to hire everyone full time and just snap my fingers and that team is there. I think obviously another big problem when you're starting up is figuring out your own sales and marketing funnel. And getting it moving to a place where you have consistent leads coming in so that you have consistent income and revenue. So the roller coaster that is revenue generation is hard. Some days you're on a high and you're like, this is amazing. We have great product market fit. We could do this like till the end of the age. And then other days you're like, oh crap, I have no customers. And where's the money going to come from to pay the bills of the business? And so I think that's really taught me to chill out a lot. The money stuff. I've had to do a lot of work on my own internal fears and triggers around money in this endeavor. I've had to also learn how to be a little bit better at receiving from other people as they're willing to give to the organization and give to me of their time and of their money. So yeah, there's been that too. Self-doubt creeps in a lot when you start a business. There's some days where you're like, I'm made for this. And there's other days that you're like, you jump on LinkedIn and look at the job postings and say, I should probably just get a regular 9 to 5 because I don't believe in myself enough right now to make this happen the way I want it to happen. But I think what I just said is one of the biggest problems is that, we think it needs to happen the way we want it to happen. And at the end of the day, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm practicing right now is trying to release control and take every day for what it is and for what's brought my way and your way and to just revel in and really appreciate and enjoy the impact we can make on people's lives, whether they're paying us or not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I think one of the things that if anybody is a Enneagram person, we're both Enneagram 5s.
Yeah.
And like just not entrepreneurs in the sense like typically, right? Like we're not super high energy.
I think we're entrepreneurs, but we're like quiet, hidden, shy entrepreneurs.
Well, that's what I mean. Not typical entrepreneurs. Like we're not
typical
we're
in the
not,
sense of
we're not loud. We're not self-confident. We're not, like there's this kind of, this is an entrepreneur kind of stereotype that neither one of us meet. And I think that is, I think there's a lot of an advantage in that, but I also really resonate as I've struggled with my own business is like the self-doubt and the like, I know I'm good at this, but I really hate telling people about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, just
like I don't even want to write this marketing copy because it sounds icky, you know, and it's not right. It's and it, there is icky marketing copy, but even just the idea that like, hey, you should hire me because I could do a good job for you is kind of difficult to get over sometimes. And
let's not talk about my fear of cameras.
You're doing great. You look good.
Yeah, I hate cameras.
Yeah. But
I like camera people. I just don't like the cameras.
Yeah, that's fine. But the thing is like there's a depth to you that, and I don't want to like throw shade on other kinds of people. That everybody is beautiful in their own way, but like
yes, every Enneagram number.
But like there's a depth to you and a carefulness and an honesty, an ability to seek out critique, like a forthrightness, I think, as well. I think we both have some of that. I mean, we get in meetings together where, like, I'll throw something up and you'll be like, no, that's dumb. And,
It's very safe. Like
yeah,
I do think fives are pretty okay with feedback,
yeah,
as long as it's presented in a way that's to help me be better,
yeah,
and to help me improve and be even more expert at my craft.
yeah. But
Um,
I think, in one of the Enneagram frameworks, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on the Enneagram, but
oh, come on.
I the five is called the investigator, right?
Yeah.
And that comes out in the discovery process that we were talking about. Is like, you are going to deep dive into this organization in a really systematic and thoughtful way and pull up some really amazing things.
Yeah.
And I think that's the impulse to kind of short circuit that is something that I think you don't have, because it's kind of core to who you are. It's like, no, we need to really get to know this really deeply in order to do it well.
Well, and to be perfectly honest, without that discovery process, without going deep, there's nothing to write.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say. I actually, like, I would hate my work if we didn't go through that discovery process, because I would have to fake it and just guess at what might be amazing and beautiful about the organization. And but it literally is like I can write till the cows come home if I have done that discovery process with the team. If I have not done that, it's like I have total writer's block. So it's become an absolute necessity in that sense too,
Yeah.
because it inspires us. Getting to know the team and getting to know the business in such a deep way allows us to actually put ourselves in their shoes, and to imagine ourselves as them and as their customer, as we're writing and creating and telling the story.
What does it look like to work with StoryJoy? Like, how would a business engage? They've, I'm a business owner. My marketing dollars are not working. I need help. What do I do?
Well, definitely book a consultation. We want to sit down. One of the most important things is for us to figure out if your problem really is a problem we can solve. If you have a messaging and storytelling problem, there are
You mean you
times.
won't take my money if you don't think you can help me?
No, absolutely not. We have an amazing collective of partners that, if we do determine that there's a different problem that needs to be resolved inside of your business, we have people that we can refer to, who are tested and have great expertise. So there's that. But yes, we need to make sure we get together to make sure that, number one, that we have a problem, that you have a problem that we can solve, but also that it's a right fit for both parties. That there's a connection there that will come through the project. And yeah, and we work to get you a quote, get our clients quotes, and talk about budgets. We do recognize that, I think that every business has a different financial situation, and sometimes they're challenged financially, sometimes not. And so we have flexibility. For instance, we have a lot of clients who they might have resources inside of their organization that can manage a part of the project. So let's say hypothetically that one of the things that is necessary is to rewrite some of the website. Instead of using our web guys, we are flexible and can work with and provide wireframe messaging to a business to allow their web person to make those changes. We don't have a requirement that all the implementation work be done through us. So we sort out what those resources are and how the work is going to be divided up, and then we schedule a time for our discovery sessions. Typically, try to get those started as quick as we can so that we can get the ball rolling. Like you said, they're 2 days. We'd love to do them 2 days in a row, but we can split them up into 3 individual sessions, about 2 to 3 hours each. And we go through the discovery process, and then we start to write. After discovery, typically it's going to be a couple of weeks where we just sort of hide. We do our Enneagram 5 thing and hide, and get, kind of get into our nook of our office and really contemplate and process all of the great content that we received through discovery, and figure out how to simplify and clarify the message for the team. And out of that comes the storybook. And the storybook is an evergreen. It's both a physical printed book and a digital book. Typically, it's like 40 or 50 pages long of evergreen marketing copy and materials to help teach your team how to talk and tell the story of your customer and your business. And once we have that piece of that collateral, that asset of that storybook is the most important piece, because it's what gives all of the other creatives what they need to create the digital assets on your behalf. It gives you what you need to create brand story videos, to write sales campaigns, wireframe up websites. So that's sort of the third phase we go into, is actually creating the assets and the deliverables that your business needs.
So this has kind of been our first foray into some video content for StoryJoy. I think our hope is to periodically be creating some more video to highlight some of the things we're working on, talk a little bit more about our process, some more informal thoughts around life and faith, and how it intersects with business, the things that we're kind of bringing to the table when we think about working with clients. So is there any...
Well, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I want to know, like, for you, how would you describe that intersection between life, faith, and business? And maybe in particular faith, because I think faith is a part of what drives both of us to serve the businesses that we serve and the organizations that we serve. So what does that look like to you to integrate your faith into the business?
Well, I think it's a real mistake to live your life in such a way that you have separate spheres. I think it's pretty common to think about, like, this is business stuff, and this is home stuff, and this is faith stuff, and this hobby stuff. And I think an integrated person, a whole person, recognizes that they bring their whole selves to everything that they do. And while that doesn't mean that, as a Christian, that doesn't mean that I'm quoting Bible verses in all of my business relationships and things like that.
Hit us over the head with the Bible?
No, but what I believe about the world comes with me wherever I go. Like, there is no way to shut that off. And I am deeply shaped by the way I see reality and how that affects my personal life and how that affects my family. And it would be disingenuous to be a different sort of person in a different context. And I would actually argue that it's harmful to kind of separate your life out into different spheres like that. I think that's kind of
it's hard to live that way.
It's a psychological injury, I think. And yeah, it's hard to live that way. It's hard to keep track of where you are at different times and
manage
what part of you you're bringing to the table.
Right. Hard to manage everyone's perceptions of you.
Yeah. So I think, as that is reflected in my work, it helps me choose what kind of clients I work with. There's pretty hot industries right now that I'm just not going to work for because of the ethical implications.
Are you looking to work for people that are of faith, or what is it that you look for?
No, I just think, you talked a little bit about human flourishing. There's, this is going to maybe be divisive, but there's a thriving recreational cannabis industry in our area, across the border in Washington. And I've been approached by several firms wanting to do video for marijuana sales, and I'm just not interested in that kind of thing. That would be one example of how what I believe is good for humanity is reflected in my work.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a kind of business or organization that has a set of values that might not be, overtly Christian values, but are values that are in alignment with the way I understand the universe to be organized, that I'm really excited to work with. And, sometimes that's going to be a real, on the face of it, human interest nonprofit that is feeding hungry kids in Africa. I mean, but it's also can be like you said, we worked with a school recently that's not explicitly faith-based, but they desire good things for kids, and I can get behind that, and I want to work with that, and even companies that manufacture products, like what is this product doing and why does it exist, and is it good for people, and I think those kind of questions inform the work that I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too there's a fun space. I think there's a little bit of a gap of potential clients who they have they have deep good in them, but they're maybe not showing it right now. Um, and for us to come in and to pull that out,
Yeah.
for me, that is if I'm loving well and I'm wanting to promote love and human flourishing in the communities and the circles that we run in, um, I love the idea of working with organizations that they maybe aren't sure where the purpose and the goodness is, um, but it can be discovered.
Yeah.
It's there, it's just hidden.
And I think too, I mean, a lot of, maybe it's subtle messaging, maybe it's overt, but there's a lot of expectation that you do separate your business life from your personal life.
Yeah.
And that it would be either inappropriate or financially unsuccessful to be a whole person. And again, I'm not saying my dentists are Christians, and I'm doing some work for them, and they're not like, we're a Christian dentist, like that. That's not who they are. They're not like promoting themselves that way.
Yeah.
But their values affect what they do, and they're not hiding that. Like they're not gonna say like, make sure nobody knows that we have any kind of faith tradition, because we're this sterile business entity that isn't informed by real humanity. Like the truth is, they're real people that come into the world with real ideas about how the world works and real values, and they bring that into their practice, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think for us to be those kind of people can help our clients to be those kind of people too.
Yeah, I think definitely there's an element of modeling.
Yeah.
That while we're still figuring out how to be a redemptive business, I think has huge value.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that will come out likely in our content and our messaging and our marketing.
So if we've got some people that have been watching this video for a little while, and they're interested in learning more about StoryJoy, maybe they're interested in being a part of the collective. Maybe they have a business that they need help messaging with. Maybe they're just
want to grab coffee.
Yeah, are intrigued by our thoughts. No, I'm not sure that's a thing. But if people want to find you, you're on LinkedIn.
Yes, if you want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay. If search for you,
yeah,
search for StoryJoy.
If they want to learn more about the business, they can just go straight to the website, to storyjoy.com.